Welcome back, folks, to another, or as you can say, early episode of Wild Sports Talk. Here I say Leung, Lower Antonio, and Trey. Of course, the man, the author, Jake Fischer. John Auckland here for the show. But Jake, how we doing today?
I'm doing well, guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you giving me the time. What's going on? How are you?
Doing great, man. Can't wait to heard about your book a little bit. I was interested in the title though, because I think some of us may have similar opinions on a certain subject in the NBA here. But Isaiah, I know you're here, but how you doing?
I'm doing well. Glad to have Jake on the program, ready to talk some basketball and ready to get his insight on how that crazy Russell Westbrook trade went down.
Definitely, my man. I was wrong about that one, but Lower in Los Angeles, how you doing, man?
Doing great. I'm excited to talk some Laker basketball with Jake Fischer here, and I'm ready. It's going to be a great show. And Jake, my name's Lorenzo, by the way. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys.
Trey, I know you were kind of feeling a little bit tired, but thank you for coming on. How you doing?
Oh man, I've been better. I got the second COVID shot today, and it kicked my butt. It felt like I had COVID, but I'm feeling a lot better now. So glad to be here and have the great Jake Fischer with us. Like I've been excited to interview him.
Listen,
Yeah, but
you did have COVID for a little bit, right? That's how vaccines work. They gave you it.
All I got to say is, if this is what I feel so bad for these people who've had COVID, that sucked. Like I couldn't even see. I was so tired. I was going to fall asleep on the road driving. I feel so bad for people who have COVID.
fall asleep just like LeBron does his teammates every couple of years. But either way, here, folks,
Wow.
here again, Jake here on the show built his author. We will talk about that in just a little bit. But Jake, I know we had a couple of questions for you, but gotta ask you though. Everybody has their reasons of picking certain careers, but what made you decide to pursue a career in sports media?
You know, I always loved basketball from a pretty young age. I played it pretty well, still kind of do, depending on certain people's opinions. Um, and well, let's just say that if I'm the worst guy on the court, I can still contribute. Usually I'm not the worst guy on the court. But at a certain point, I also realized like I wasn't going to make the NBA. I wasn't going to play high level college. I used to have dreams of walking on at Syracuse while like being in the media program, and even then, like I didn't love what went on, like how much work had to go behind the scenes, like the craft aspect of it, right? Like JJ Redick goes to find a gym every night to go shoot somewhere. Like, that's kind of what I do now. Like I'm always working on this craft, and I always loved writing. I had the book is dedicated to my third and fourth grade teacher, Nicole Crawford, who taught me how to write, and my high school journalism advisor, Greg Gagliardi, who taught me how to report. And this is just something I knew I always wanted to do, like from a young age. I just knew I wanted to be around basketball and cover basketball. And for whatever reason, I just like was hell bent on making it happen. Like knew it was going to happen. It definitely pissed some people off along the way. I will admit, having that type of confidence in yourself, where I feel like it's a really competitive business, and you have to believe you can do it, and you got to be able to have a lot of like have a mindset that like even if you're gonna have a lot of no's, which you are, like everyone's gonna have wake up one day with a job covering the NBA. Like you start typically covering high school sports and had internships, and most jobs you apply to turn you down. And then I was working on a night desk all my time at Sports Illustrated. People don't really know that. Like I didn't love working 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. every day. I'll tell you that. But I knew this is what I wanted to do, and I knew I could do it because I just love the game and I know the game, and I wanted to bring like a real, just like honest approach to it, and thought that there was an avenue to attack it.
Definitely love the attitude, Jake, especially when people start out. You're not going to have the job that people think, but if you think you're better on the court, I shoot like a little girl, so don't feel bad about your shooting abilities. I'm embarrassed.
I did not feel bad about my shooting ability, I'll tell you.
Okay, don't, but you'll look like LeBron James compared to myself. But Laura, I'll let you answer the question, Jake.
Hey, Jake. Lorenzo, Loro Antonio here from the MI6 Sports Network and from the Loro Sports Pod. My sports media segment question for you is, has the NBA always been your favorite sport to cover? And if so, why or why not?
Yeah, the NBA is really only the league I've covered consistently. I definitely love football. I'm a diehard Eagles fan. But the league is definitely it's just the NBA is the league I'm referring to. Just a different beast. I mean, there's 56 players on every football roster, right? Which to me sounds like a zoo. Like I don't even know how to comprehend like what a locker room dynamic is in that regard and all that type of stuff. You hear about like guys in football and offense and defense like don't even know who each other are because they just like never even have like they're not in the same positional meetings. You know, they're not in the offense, defense, whatever. If you're a third string guy on offense, like are you really? If you're a third string receiver, are you really going to become friends with the first string defensive lineman? That type of stuff. The NBA, I think these guys being just wearing sleeveless shirts and shorts, no mask, no hat in baseball. Right on the court with courtside fans right there, you can literally touch these guys. It's just, it's a different type of experience. And I love football. Like I just booked a flight to Denver to see the Eagles and the Broncos and visit a buddy yesterday. And like I traveled to multiple road games a year. I go back to Philly, but like it's a different game. I mean, the business is the same, I'm sure. And from talking to people who do cover the NFL and people, I meet people who are in the league too. There's certainly overlap in similar aspects of players and agents wanting to get what they want and to put themselves in a position to play more to get their next contract and to win a championship to satisfy their legacy questions and all that type of stuff. But the NBA has always been it for me. And I know more about the game of basketball itself compared to other sports too. Like I know what the A gap and the B gap and the C gap is in football, but like there's not too like I can't sit down with Bill Belichick and hold my own against him. Like I can with Greg Popovich, and that's something that I think has been kind of a guiding light for me too. Being that like I know if I can from 18 years old. I knew when I first I guess I was 19 years old when I first started interning at Slam and calling agents, and talking to players and stuff. Like I knew I could hang in that type of just like basketball discussion.
Definitely though that man will have to talk football sometimes because I can it all with Bill Belichick. But I do had a question for Jake.
Yeah, before I get into my question for Jake, Jake, I just wanted to say, man, I know you said you're an Eagles fan. I know my Niners play you week 2, so please take it easy with the whole zone read type of stuff with Jalen Hurts because I know my Niners run defense is not all that good. But
there you go.
Yeah. In all seriousness, though, my question as we start the NBA segment is, Jake, in all my time covering or watching sports and now covering sports, I don't think I've ever seen a crazier day than what transpired on July 29th of 2021, which was the day of the NBA draft. I was on the phone with my good friend Callan, and he told me that Woj had reported that Buddy Hield and the Lakers were close to happening, and we all thought that it was a done deal. And then, boom, all of a sudden, not even 2 minutes later, you have Shams coming in, throwing a curveball that the Lakers and Wizards were engaged in trade talks for Russell Westbrook. And then Woj reports something about Buddy Hield, and then less than like 30 seconds later, Shams comes back with something about Russell Westbrook, and then the whole Westbrook thing just snowballed from there. So I want to ask you, take us back to July 29th. What do you know about what happened like that caused the Lakers to move off of the Buddy Hield trade talks and suddenly put all their attention in acquiring Russell Westbrook?
So that night I was sitting right where I am right now, and I got a call from somebody that said Russell Westbrook's going to the Lakers. I said, okay. For Montrez, KCP. I mean, we've been hearing kind of. I was the first report that Saturday before that that Bradley Beal was considering requesting a trade, and in that article had also mentioned that like that was happening because Russell Westbrook was considering requesting his own trade, and was pointing the finger at Brad and saying, "What are you thinking of doing here, man? Because I'm just going to go to LA if you're out of here anyways." because Brad's obviously a free agent next season too. So from there, I mean, I heard it pretty thoroughly. I mean, I don't have it 100% confirmed, but I'm pretty confident in saying that, you know, LeBron was definitely making calls to guys all offseason, and he was on the phone with Russ. He was on the phone with DeMar. He was on the phone with Rudy Gay, Chris Paul, everybody, Carmelo. And, you know, there's always been – Ramona Shelburne wrote a phenomenal piece at ESPN.com about you know, how Russ wanted to be the partner with Kawhi in the Clippers, and that's kind of even backdoor how Paul George ended up there. And, you know, Russ wanted to go to the Lakers. He wanted to go to Los Angeles. He's from LA. And, you know, from there, things are already happening in free agency ahead of the draft, right? There was certainly belief that night too that it was going to be this 5-team sign and trade with Spencer Dinwiddie, and that's why I reported, I think, you know, a couple minutes after those, you know, other reports came out that the deal probably was going to wait to be completed until free agency, because I don't want to say anything too damning, you know, in the age of 10. I don't want to be the catalyst for another Bogdanovich situation, right? But that's kind of my perspective on what was happening, and there was certainly discussions of maybe even would expand at a point where DeAndre Jordan would go to Sacramento, and the Kings would get a pick back, and Buddy Hield would be involved. But it was definitely all of these talks about how big it could have become. But the root of it always was Russell Westbrook going to Los Angeles.
Definitely was a huge shocker, but you never know what can happen with LA here. But lower, I believe you also had another question for Jake.
Yeah, Jake. So my question for you is about powerhouses in the West and the East. And my question for you is, are the Lakers and Nets clear favorites to win the East and West? And also, will Carmelo Anthony be an impact player for the Lakers and complement Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Russell Westbrook well?
Are you wearing a Lakers Hawaiian shirt?
Yes, because I'm a big Lakers fan, and I've been a Laker fan all my life.
There you go. I was just in LA last weekend. I think to your first point, Carmelo is going to be an impact player for sure. He was an impact player for Portland. I don't know if he's going to be getting the post-up opportunities that he was getting in Portland in the second unit in LA, because the Lakers typically go through the regular season playing a lot of second units through Anthony Davis. That's how he gets a lot of his numbers. He feasts on those second units while LeBron's resting. Maybe Carmelo still does get those touches. Who knows? But at least in like a state of like where it matters, like he was in Portland's closing lineup shooting corner threes. I think that's probably what he'll be doing in LA. He's best friends with LeBron. They always wanted to play together. Like I think that will be something that you'll see. Sorry, what was your first question again?
My first question is about powerhouses in the West and the East. Do you think that the Lakers and Nets have the ability to win the West and East because they both have a very good team on paper?
Yeah, I don't love to make predictions and give my opinions, but what I will say is that the majority of NBA people you talk to are expecting that are saying those two teams are the favorites. Yes.
Definitely can understand that from some of the people I talked to. LA being LA, so you just never know what can happen. But kind of my question though to you is a guy that I've been critical of, maybe should not be dating the Kardashians here, but what are you hearing in Ben Simmons' future in Philadelphia? And do you believe he'll be with Philly for the start of training camp?
So at this point, I do firmly believe that Ben Simmons is more likely than not to still be a member of the Philadelphia 76ers by training camp. But I don't know if he'll actually be reporting. I was texting with a friend in the Philly area who's plugged into that situation this morning, who was saying there's no way Ben Simmons plays a game for Philly ever again. I'm not willing to go that definitively because these guys are all people, right? Ben Simmons could surely just go back and say, I'm not reporting, I'm not showing up till you trade me, and really put the pressure on that's how he could try to put the pressure on Daryl Morey. But also Tyrese Maxey's looking pretty good, and Philly fans are as high on him as anybody. And what's really the big drop off in a regular season, night to night, offensively. Defensively, it's huge, but offensively, from Ben Simmons to Tyrese Maxey in terms of what he does as a creator for everybody else, I don't know if it's that much. And Tyrese Maxey obviously has the shooting ability that Ben Simmons currently lacks, a little bit more scoring, and he's not afraid to go get fouled and go to the line. I think, how big of a drop off would there really be on a night to night basis in a regular season where teams aren't scouting you as hard as they are in the postseason, and you have Joel Embiid, who is obviously the runner-up for MVP. You've got Tobias Harris, Danny Green, Seth Curry back. 4 of the 5 key components of the best starting lineup in the league in terms of overall net rating last year. I think Daryl Morey would call Ben's bluff, and at a certain point, if he's calling his bluff, and the Phillies at 10 games now, they're 8-2 or something like that. Obviously that's a pretty good scenario for Philly, right? If they even are like 6-4 or 7-3, and they're doing okay, like. I think maybe Ben Simmons could get influenced. Again, we're all talking hypotheticals here, but in that scenario, like he might have to report and he might have to play. But at this point, the golden, the guiding light for Philly overall here is that they want to get Damian Lillard, and they're not going to do anything with Ben Simmons right now. That is going to prevent them from getting Damian Lillard. And they're hoping that Damian Lillard will request a trade sometime around training camp when he comes back and is looking at the facility and checking out his teammates. They're hoping he pulls a James Harden and says, actually, you know what, get me out of here. From that point, Ben Simmons is going to be the best star player on the table immediately in that offer. And the pressure will be on Portland to move him quickly. It won't be advantageous for the Trailblazers to – a team that's, people say around the league is up for sale or hoping to be up for sale in the near future. It won't be great for a small market to say every single day in the headlines on ESPN and whatever that Damian Lillard wants out of Portland, that Damian Lillard trade saga request continues. Like, it's going to be advantageous for the Blazers to make that done quickly. And if that's the case, it's going to be very beneficial for Philly to have Ben Simmons ready to put on the table.
Definitely be interesting to see what happens in Philly, but kind of a comment here from Ishmael saying, hey, Jake, welcome to the show. But Trey, I know you had a question or two for Jake.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off that Ben Simmons thing. Unlike you, I love the NBA. Come free agency, I'm on Twitter all the time. My wife gets mad at me and everything. But I think Daryl Morey is asking for way too much in return, which he probably should. He's calling the bluff and everything. But if you're my question is, the Golden State Warriors, would you trade Draymond Green in your first before the I know they drafted 2 first rounders, the 7th and 14th overall pick, but if you're Daryl Morey, wouldn't you want to make that swap? Because Draymond Green is a facilitator just like Ben Simmons. He's not afraid to get fouled and go to the free throw line. And then it would make the Warriors better, space them out a little bit more and take the load off Steph Curry. And I'm just wondering, do you think the way the Warriors are constructed now, do you think that they have a chance to continue to be a top 3 seed in the Western Conference?
I don't think Golden State is trading Draymond Green for Ben Simmons. I just don't. I don't think they're trading Draymond Green for anybody, really. I think he's just such a fabric of that team. If they were to trade him, it would have to be for something that is really moving the needle for them. And right now, Ben Simmons is just a tricky situation. He just is. I mean, the dynamic at play is, the upside is obviously super, 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 super high. He's a former number 1 overall pick who's become a 3-time All-Star and just was the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year, which means he is by voting measures. He lost to Rudy Gobert. By voting measures, he is the best perimeter defender in the league in an NBA where the game is only furthering to continue to be more decided out on the perimeter, right? With guys shooting pull-ups from 35 feet and step backs from 40. So at this point, he clearly has a lot of value, but also not as much as he did previously. And how much value he'll have in the future is what's muddying these waters, right? So I think where the Warriors are right now, they're in this. They just signed Steph Curry to an extension, but they only have a certain window here where obviously he just led the league in scoring, and no one expected him to do that. Like, you talk to Warriors officials and people, they weren't down on Steph, but they weren't necessarily thinking he was going to have his best shooting, scoring season of his career. So they've got Clay coming back, and they've got these younger guys now, and they're trying to make an honest run at the title. Giving up Draymond Green for Ben Simmons is not the way to do that.
Definitely could be interesting here, but you just never know. But Trey, I believe you also had another question for Jake.
Yeah, I'm going to make some Laker fans mad here, but LeBron James not receiving any first play vote from your media friends. As Kevin Durant or Giannis took over LeBron James, because LeBron James was a great player, but I think his time has passed. I'm just wondering, do you have either you or one of those two guys, KD or Giannis, or another guy who's the best player in the world right now?
Listen, LeBron is still a great player. Let's get that out there. He was one of the leading MVP candidates before he got hurt last year. Let's keep that in mind. Pound for pound, right now, there probably isn't a single player that I would give the ball, and want him to run my crunch time activity for the last 2, 3, 5 minutes even than LeBron. I just wouldn't. I mean, as much as Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant and is everything, the moments where his pull-ups aren't falling. Like, you saw it against France in the beginning of the Olympics, and obviously they went on the tear and they figured it out. But I think LeBron is just one of, if not the greatest playmakers of all time. Kevin Durant's one of, if not the greatest scorers of all time. I don't know. I think LeBron, even at this age, it's hard to definitively knock him off that mantle, because we didn't think about it this way. Like, 2 of his last 3 seasons he got hurt and his team either missed the playoffs or didn't even have a healthy team in the first round. The other year he was healthy, they won the freaking championship, like, pretty dang easily, right? So that's a pretty good argument too.
Cover technical issues like we have here, but definitely be interesting to see what happens in the NBA. But I think, Jake, we had a question here from Ishmael, one of our viewers. He says, in your opinion, who was the biggest winners and losers of this NBA free agency?
Again, just like that last question was authority for me, I don't try to give my case, but I'll say, around the league, talking about rival execs, everyone's pretty high on what the Wizards did. People were big fans of the Rockets draft. Now, there's conflicting opinions on the Bulls. Some people love what they did. Other people think they gave up, 2 first-round picks for Nikola Vucevic, and then a first round for DeMar, and then added Lonzo. Now they've got 4 guys where a lot of ball dominance at play, and how great are they defensively, that type of stuff. I think the Bulls, I give them a lot of credit for being imaginative and creative. I didn't think they were going to get both Lonzo and DeMar, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. The talk was definitely that they thought they had more of a shot at Lonzo and maybe bringing on Derrick Rose. But the Knicks came in with a higher offer for Rose than the Bulls were able to offer. They went quickly with the Alex Caruso deal, and I was like, okay, it seems like they're probably done. And then they were able to make progress with San Antonio, which definitely been talked about, but I wasn't so sure they were going to be able to do it. And even if you don't like what they did, I think you got to take your hat off to the creativity. At least they added more talent. Someone who's a previous All-Star, and DeMar, I think, playing in San Antonio the last couple of years, we've kind of generally forgotten how good he is, and he became a better playmaker in San Antonio, which they're going to need a lot of in Chicago. And on the loser side, a lot of people in the league right now are certainly questioning what New Orleans was doing and giving up on the ball, and not really having much of a backup plan. And Devontae Graham is a great player, but is he a starting point guard? No, he hasn't been that in his career. He's been a combo guard. He's been someone who's played a lot off the bench. Definitely been a 20-point scorer, borderline all-star, but when you lose Lonzo Ball and you have guys like Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, they kind of need. Lonzo was so good for them defensively and being able to guard 1 through 3, and also he's the rare type of point guard who can create offense, but also in the half court, he's happy to stand in the corner and shoot threes. So that's something that I think they're going to miss a lot. And they didn't, and a lot of people in the league also think that they didn't have a sufficient backup plan for losing him.
Definitely been an interesting free agency here, but Isaiah, we'll get to your question, and then we'll get to really the thing that I'm definitely interested in hearing about in Jake's book. But Isaiah, your question?
Yeah, Jake, I got one final NBA question for you before we get to your book, and that is, we heard a lot of stuff before the draft about Colin Sexton, and there were a lot of reports surfacing that the Cavs were making him super available via trade talks. Obviously, they drafted Evan Mobley, the center out of USC, in the NBA draft, and things have, died down regarding Colin Sexton and his trade talks. Do you still think that Colin Sexton will get traded? And what are you hearing from around the NBA in regards to Sexton's status moving forward in Cleveland?
He definitely was considered to be available for trade, and there definitely are people who are high on him, but Colin Sexton's about to be a free agent next summer, and or he's extension eligible, one of the two, whatever. I don't know off the top of my head. He's got a contract situation coming up, and trading for him means you also have to pay him. And right now he's trending to be someone who's going to want to be in this Terry Rozier type money, 4 years, 80 type stuff, Lonzo Ball type money, 4 years, 90, whatever. And that's not really a thing that it seems like a lot of teams are interested in doing right now. So at this point, I'd expect Colin Sexton to be back in Cleveland, and this season will be make or break for him in terms of how much that free agency number can get to when his contract is up.
Definitely interesting as a Cavs fan here. Hopefully, I don't have to cry. We only have one good player. Hopefully, he doesn't get traded. And I was not having to potentially disown my Cavs live on air if they traded him. But Jake, we're definitely interested in hearing about a book here again, folks. Jake wrote a book called "Built to Lose." I'm interested in the title. You talk about taking. Kind of take us through it. What was the thought process in writing this book?
Yeah, I'm from Philly originally. That shows the Eagles fandom. So I got my career started covering the Sixers for Liberty Ballers, and I interned at Slam Magazine and was covering the NBA from Celtics games at TD Garden afterwards while I was in school in Boston. So people forget the Celtics traded KG and Paul Pierce to Brooklyn the same night that Hinkie traded Drew Holiday to New Orleans. So I felt like I was in the eye of the tanking hurricane. There were other teams that we chronicle in there, like Phoenix with Ryan McDonough, and Orlando with Rob Hennigan, and Pete D'Alessandro in Sacramento, and the Cleveland Cavaliers with David Griffin, and even like the Wolves come into play, and the Bucks with Giannis and all that type of stuff. There were so many tanking, rebuilding young teams that were chasing after these draft picks in 2014 and 2015 and 2016. I think a lot of it was because there was a rise of these analytical-minded executives who, the numbers really showed, getting these future all-stars in the top 5. That's what they typically are, and those are the guys who lead you to championships. And just like we were talking about in free agency, like it's so hard to get these guys, especially if you're a small market team like New Orleans, like OKC, like Detroit, Orlando, like even the Houstons of the world. And Philly's never even signed a major free agent really too. So to that effect, like if you're not the Lakers, if you're not the Knicks, around Chicago, Miami, like the best way to get all-stars is through the draft. So the book, I talked to over 300 people for it. I've got a ton of new info from transactional stuff to human interest, stories about just guys and people and their families and their interests and their relationships. So if you haven't bought it yet, I encourage you to do so. It's available on Amazon and bookshop.org and Barnes & Noble. My Public and Triumph Books, I think, still has a promo code Fischer30 for 30% off on triumphbooks.com. Got a partnership with a watch company called La Touraine, LATOURAINE. I think promo code Built to Lose gets you a free book with any watch purchase. So it's still out there. I would love anybody supporting it. Appreciate you guys having me on here and giving me the platform to talk about it. And wish you guys the best of luck with this season coming up here too.
Definitely going to be interesting. Definitely we can talk more next time about tanking, kind of how maybe that doesn't affect or hurts the NBA. But folks, as you do for any quick program before we let Jake go to this very busy schedule, we'll go into today's or this afternoon's final thoughts. Getting here, folks, Jake Fischer, author, writer, NBA person, all around, very busy, great guy. But Jake, we'll let you go first. Do you have any final thoughts for today's program? Any things you could be working on or things you're excited about for this next season?
Yeah, I got a story coming out Friday, I believe, tomorrow at Bleacher Report about this Nerlens Noel, Rich Paul dynamic with the lawsuit. So I think it's pretty interesting. It came to light, and I'm trying to spin it forward and assess what it means for the league at large and the agent world moving forward. So that's kind of everything for me. Yeah. Thanks again for having me, guys.
For sure. Looking forward to it. But Isaiah, thank you for coming on. But how are you doing today? Or your final thoughts on today's program?
Yeah, it was a great show. Jake, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the program tonight. Quick question for you, Jake. Prediction for the Eagles this upcoming season. Can we have a record prediction? I know it's a lot of reports are saying it's not good, but what is your prediction?
I'm going to say 7-9, and there's signs that Jalen Hurts is at least a potential franchise quarterback. That's my hope.
Dang, I was going to ask you a question.
Okay. We'll definitely have a conversation about that. But I could send to Belichick if you could with Popovich. But Trey, thank you for coming on. Do you have any final thoughts on today's program or anything of the sorts?
Once again, thank y'all for letting me come on and help interview Mr. Fischer. I've been following him on Twitter for a long time now, and I just retweeted his book, so everyone needs to go out and retweet, go buy it. I'm going to buy it as soon as I get off because I agree with you about the tanking and everything in the NBA like that. And I don't know about your Eagles prediction, 7-9. I think they're going to win 5. But they might get Deshaun Watson. Who knows? But thank you again, Jake, for coming on, and I appreciate all the questions and the time because I know you're a busy man, and I really do appreciate taking time today to come and help us out.
Definitely, I think you made a match when it comes to football, Jake. But Laura, thank you for coming on here. Give me final thoughts on today's program.
John and Jake. Jake, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us on Wild Sports Talk, and really excited about this upcoming NBA season. But I want to allude to that football thing, football topic. That your Eagles got lucky in beating my Patriots in Super Bowl 52, thanks to that Nick Foles Philly special and all that.
You're a Lakers and Patriots fan. Your opinion doesn't matter.
I'm so sorry, Jake. I've learned to not hate Target because I literally lost some money and threw a temper tantrum when I bet against Brady. So totally understand.
But now the Patriots have Mac Jones. So.
No fluke, man. 41-33 is no fluke.
Totally understand that, but again, Jake Fischer here, folks. We'll be retweeting that, kind of sharing that all over social media. But Jake, thanks for coming on, and we'll definitely have to talk some football sometime. But thank you also for watching, and we will see y'all next time.
Sounds good.